Thank you for joining Rittenhouse and MLA for the MLA Exhibitor Showcase. Today we're going to be discussing precision collection development with the R2 Digital Library Patron-Driven Acquisition Program. I'm Nicole Gallo. I'm the Executive Director of Sales and Marketing for Rittenhouse Book Distributors. And I'm joined today by Wendy Bonson, who is the Executive Director of Library Services for Rittenhouse.
Morning from Atlanta, everyone.
So a couple of housekeeping things here as we get started. If you have any questions, you can use the toolbar and hit the Q&A button and type in your question. We're going to reserve some time at the end to answer any questions that you might have. And certainly we'll talk about this again at the end, but we will be in our virtual booth all week. So we do encourage you to stop by. MLA has done a phenomenal job getting this set up in a virtual environment. So we're there with more information. You can video chat with us. You can just swing by and pick up some information. So we do encourage you to do that. I should have said at the onstart of this, I hope everyone is feeling good. And we're happy to have this opportunity to meet virtually. Hopefully next year we'll be back in person. But at least we're able to hear and see each other for this MLA. Okay, a little bit about our agenda today. We are going to learn about precision collection development with the R2 Digital Library and our Patron-Driven Acquisition Program. We are going to take a look at how our libraries and their patrons have used the data with regards to evaluating usage on their Patron-Driven Acquisition Program and how that has really informed collection management. We have some good statistics that we're going to take a look at. And we're going to hear about some successes and insights from R2 Digital Library active Patron-Driven Acquisition users. And we've also talked to them about some other plans and programs out there. So we have some interesting information, some successes and some cons with regards to some of the things to think about if you're thinking about looking at some evidence-based PDA or DDA plans. You don't have to furiously take notes when I get to the statistics part. We have created a PDA infographic and a blog post on this topic, so you can swing by our virtual meeting booth, and both are available as handouts there in the meeting. Okay, so why precision collection development? It really is using evidence to inform your collection management. You may hear this as PDA, patron-driven acquisition, or demand-driven DDA, but it really has become a normalized part of collection development. We have a white paper that was written by our Executive Director of Technology Services about this topic from its inception way back in the early days of PDA and DDA to where it's come today. So I do encourage you to grab that and take a look at it. We're going to talk about some of those things here today. But academic and medical libraries really need to take a look at their patrons and figure out how to serve their user needs adequately. A PDA can really help to provide access to that information. The second bullet here, we all know budgets are ever shrinking, especially with COVID-19 and what's going on campus with enrollments, with virtual learning. So it's a way that you can carefully curate and make sure that you're using funds appropriately on campus. And it really comes back to purchasing just in time versus just in case. You know, I think gone are the days with almost every library where you would just buy in case somebody wants to use something. This really provides that just in time, giving access to information as it's needed. So we're going to take a look at a few of those things and some of the statistics that have informed us and some of our libraries. So a little bit about the Rittenhouse PDA. So the R2 Digital Library is our ebook database. You're probably familiar with that. And we provide access to ebooks. So it's all secondary source material across publishers. So our PDA program enables libraries to put a collection of ebooks together and provide free access to their patrons. So you have 3 accesses at the session level, and at that point, it moves to a shopping cart. So it's mediated. It's not an auto purchase program. once you get your ebook collection ready and you open it up for PDA, you can do single ebooks. We have a lot of special collections that are designed to make that collection management a lot easier. And we do offer a wide content selection. So there's nursing, allied health, medicine, vet, osteopathic, etc. And the nice thing here in the last bullet that I've bolded out is that you can get this started with no initial cost, especially right now when you're not really sure what your budgets might look like going into 2021. It's a great way to get a collection going, get it launched, and inform your collection management. So as I mentioned, our PDA on the third use, it moves to a shopping cart. The nice thing, as I said, is that it is mediated. So we let you know that book has been used 3 times. It's removed from your PDA and will sit in your shopping cart for about a month. We do have auto replenishment, which I'll talk about a little bit later for our PDA ebooks. So with so many different publishers and so much content, it's a nice way to automate new titles being added to your PDA collection. And then one of the best things about our patron-driven acquisition program is that we have real-time usage statistics. So at any time you can go in and access that information, and I'll show you where to do that in just a moment. Okay, so a little bit about our patron-driven acquisition content. As I mentioned earlier, the R2 Digital Library brings together content. We're an aggregator, so we have content from about 100 different publishers, scientific, technical, medical. The great thing is it's aggregated and it comes together on one platform. So you can curate your collection. Let's say you're doing nursing. You can pick from all the different nursing associations and put that content together as one collection, accessed on one platform. So your users are going to one place for that content. Whether you're firm ordering or using PDA, it acts the same. It's managed the same on the R2 Digital Library platform. And your patrons, really, it's transparent to them. So when they search and browse on the platform, they are going to find access to that information, whether it's part of your PDA or purchase content. It's really easy to curate a PDA collection on the R2 Digital Library. So if you're on R2, you know you have administrative credentials to log in and take a look at what's available for purchase. Once you do log in, I've kind of circled it here on the screen. All you have to do is select purchase ebooks, and then you can see on the right, you either add it to your collection, so you're making that purchase. We have shopping cart functionality. You add it to a shopping cart and check it out, or you add it to your PDA collection and you hit that button and you can, in 2 clicks, add it to your PDA collection. So it's really easy to manage PDA. It's almost just like making a purchase, only we're not going to invoice you for that content at that point. We have sort and filter. So I mentioned earlier, you can do individual titles like I was just showing you. You can also select one of our collections. And I have circled here, you know, the Duties Core Titles collection. All you have to do is hit sort and filter, hit your collection, and then you can add that entire collection to your cart. So it's pretty easy to use. If you have any questions about that, or you're on R2 and you want to get started, certainly just type in a message right now and we'll get in touch with you after this presentation so that we can get you going. So a little bit about some of the statistics and the usage of our PDA. And this is really the meat of our presentation here. We launched our PDA program in 2013. So we have been at it for a while. We've refined this through the years, but because we have had a PDA for so long, we have a lot of good information, a lot of good usage stats, and more, you know, the majority of our active R2 accounts are using PDA. So we've been able to analyze this information and produce some interesting information and statistics. So we're going to take a look at that right now. Every ebook on the R2 Digital Library is available to be added to a PDA. And as of today, I took a look this morning, every title on the collection has been part of a PDA collection. So, you know, we have close to 6,000 titles, and they've all been used in the PDA program. 56% of our active R2 Digital Library accounts have added PDA. Active is someone that has purchased content at any time or has a PDA collection. And 78% of our patron-driven acquisition users have had ebooks used 3 times and moved to a shopping cart. So what does that tell us? That tells us if you're putting books on your patron-driven acquisition, your patrons are using them, almost 80% of the time, and they're accessing content, and they've used it several times. So we think 3 uses really indicates that that would make sense to be purchased as part of an ebook collection. So that's a pretty useful statistic there. And 25% of all ebooks added to a PDA were viewed at least once. So this is an important distinction, and I'm going to just pause here for a moment and chat about this. So if you have a PDA collection and you put 100 books on the PDA collection, you may have 25% that are used 3 times and moved to a shopping cart, and you think, okay, I need to really do some analysis and think if I want to purchase that book. You may have another 25% that are accessed twice, and like this stat, 25% are accessed once. Some may never be accessed. So what does that tell us? That tells us that precision collection development is important, and you are able to really hone in on those books that are actually important to your patrons. So had you purchased all 100 of those books, 25 of them might not have ever have been accessed. Another 25% might have only been used once. And at your library with your budgets, that may not make sense to purchase. So we provide you with this important information so that you can really make an informed evaluation of the content that is being used by your patrons. The other thing I will say here, through the years, millions of dollars of content has been accessed at no charge. So in collaboration and cooperation with our publishers, we have been able to open up this content for PDA, and you've had some free accesses to that content across our libraries. And that is really powerful too. When you look at your PDA collection and you say, okay, these books at retail would have cost X, and I never purchased them, but they were used. So we really encourage our libraries to look at both things, books that are used and books that are not used, to really inform that evaluation of patron usage. And also the content that has been accessed at no charge. So a lot of good information once you're on PDA. A lot of our accounts will open the PDA and look at this over a period of time to determine the direction of their collections. Okay, so a little bit about purchase trends. So this is also really interesting to look at when we, I think the big fear with DDA or PDA has, and we'll talk about this in a minute with pros and cons, has always been, oh my gosh, everything's going to trigger and my budget will be gone. Well, one, we're mediated, so you still have control of that decision. But when we look at our overall statistics, about 20% of all R2 digital library purchases were generated from PDA collections, which means that you as the librarians are still managing your purchases, outside of a demand-driven information. So that's pretty powerful information. More than 50% of active R2 accounts with a PDA collection have made a purchase. So, it has informed collection management. The evidence is important and can drive the sales over time. And 75% of the active R2 digital library accounts set up auto replenishment of purchased ebooks. And so what does that mean? That means that you own content and you set auto replenishment up so that when the new edition becomes available, it's automatically added to your PDA. And essentially that just means that your patrons are not losing access. You may know there are certain books you want to purchase no matter what, but the minute they land on the R2 digital library platform, they become part of your PDA. And then as they trigger, you can make that purchase. So that's really, I was really encouraged when I put together that stat because auto replenishment is working as it should. 75% of our libraries who are using PDA auto replenishment use it through the platform. We have a tool called PDA Wizard, which helps you to refine and set that up. 20% of those ebooks added to a collection, any collection, were from auto replenishment. So that means you have an R2 digital library collection, you add new books, they're coming automatically because of that auto replenishment. And I think the next stat is really one of the most powerful statistics we're going to talk about today, but 86% of ebooks added via auto replenishment were viewed. So that, I mean, you can't get much better than that. That means that the auto replenishment is adding books to the collection that are important and are viewed, will most likely end up being purchased over time. So that auto replenishment tool is making sure that content, that valuable content that people want to see, is added automatically. And then about 35% of our libraries using auto replenishment have purchased ebooks. So that statistic is higher than just the general PDA. So if it's being auto replenished, it's more frequently being purchased. So if you're on R2, I definitely urge you to set up auto replenishment, because based on these statistics, it really does work, and it can really help to ease some of those collection management decisions for you at the library. And it's automatic, so you don't have to really think about it. So here is just a quick screenshot of our auto replenishment. So it's really easy to set up. You just, again, log in as your admin. Along the left navigation, you have a tab there for My PDA Collection, and you just hit that PDA wizard. You can see here on the screen, you can select how you want it to work. It's customizable. You can set up many different tasks. So if you have different areas, here's one that I did for our Duties Core Title Special Collection. You can do it just for purchased resources or PDA resources, and you can refine practice area, discipline, etc. So it's really an easy tool. It's served up right through the admin tab on r2library.com. So if you're active on the platform, I do encourage you to take a look at that. If you are a PDA only customer, you still have access to this, and you would just select new editions of PDA resources when you're setting this up. So it's really easy. Take a look at it. It's one of those services that we provide that can really ease your collection management. Okay, so just a little bit about content. We took a look at the collections that we have available and which were the most popular collections. It wasn't surprising to me. The Duties Core Titles collection was the #1 added collection for patron-driven acquisition. And the Essentials in Medicine, Nursing, and Allied Health were all really high up there on the list. If you're not familiar with what Duties Core Titles is, it's a review service for health sciences ebooks. And we can tell you more about that. Just throw a question into the Q&A and we'll get back with you. We have a lot of information on our websites about Duties Core Titles. And then you can take a look here in hospitals, health administration essentials, nursing essentials in the 2- and 4-year academics, resident essentials for medical schools. Nursing standards and guidelines is really popular. When I showed the screenshot earlier of all of our publishers, or a group of our publishers, we really have a robust collection of scholarly publishers and associations, hard to find content. And this nursing standards and guidelines collection is probably where we see the most use with the auto replenishment, because a lot of those are annuals or semi-annuals, and they're the must-haves. I hate to say that because I think all content is fabulous, but they really are those must-haves in nursing. And then we have hospital essentials and undergraduate essentials bringing up the list here, the end of the list. But really easy, and I'm going to show you this. When you are sorting and filtering to add to your PDA collection, you can just select one of those collections from the sort and filter, and then you can expand your screen. And I've circled here, if you use a checkbox, you can select everything and add them all at once to PDA. So it's really easy to get your PDA collection going. And these are the Duties Core Titles 2020. There's 474 of them on this search and filter that I've done here. And you can, in 2 clicks, add the entire collection to your PDA. So it's really easy to get this going in your library. Okay, so we're going to talk about some of the most popular features for our PDA. And I think the top of the list here was real-time usage statistics. So just like we do for ebooks that you've purchased, and how I've gathered all of this information is that we collect usage for the patron-driven acquisition titles on the platform as well. So when you are looking at your collection, you can sort and filter by purchased or PDA or both, and run real-time usage stats. So you can see your cost per use, how many accesses, all of those good things right here from usage reports, again, as you've logged in as the admin. And one last thing on that, you can set up a report to be run and emailed to you. So set it up once and take advantage of that. Real-time PDA access reports. So you can quickly and easily look at which of your patron-driven acquisition titles have been accessed over time, whether you've purchased them or not. So you can export this using our tools. You can export it into Excel and sort it. You can look at it right on the screen. And you can see here, it tells you the date that it was activated, how many times it's been accessed, and the date it was added to the cart. So sometimes you're going to see that it's sitting in the shopping cart and you should check it out and purchase it. At other times, you're going to see that it was removed from the shopping cart within 30 days. But at any time, you can see, you can always go back in and run these stats and add them to your collection. So perhaps your budget hasn't come through yet and you're waiting to see what you can buy. You can run and access these stats at any time and go back in and decide which content would be important for you to purchase. I should also note, when you have something moved to the shopping cart, the administrator on the R2 account is notified that you have had a PDA title that has been accessed 3 times and has moved to the shopping cart for consideration of purchase. Your patrons also, if they try to access it again, they'll get a message that it's under consideration for purchase, and they can contact you right from there. So again, these access reports are invaluable. And also you can look at, when you export this, what hasn't been accessed, which I also think is just as important when you're looking at the type of content that your patrons are using and not using in the library. Free MARC records. So with any content on the R2 Digital Library, we provide the persistent URLs, the free MARC. You can export it in 2 clicks. You can do it from your collection, you can do it from a shopping cart, you can do it from your order history. Pretty much anywhere you are on the platform, you can use that toolbar and export the MARC records. So we definitely make that available on the platform. One of the other popular features for our patron-driven acquisition program is that from time to time, we will generate an automated shopping cart based on your PDA usage. So you'll get an email that says, we have created this cart for you based on your usage over time, and it sits there for 7 days, and it's just a nice way, without you having to run a report and add anything to a shopping cart, for us to create that for you so that you can see, okay, here's a group of 12 titles that triggered that I haven't purchased. And usually, hint, hint, we run a special when we're doing this, so you get some discount when we do these automated shopping carts. We do them in conjunction a lot with our special offers or flash sales. But from time to time, we'll just run it for your patron-driven acquisition collection. Okay, so that's just a little bit about the statistics. And again, everything I just talked about is on an infographic, so you can grab it after this presentation and review it. It's really helpful to forward that on to faculty so that you can say, hey, I really want to open up this content. I want your students using it. Or if you're with practicing clinicians, making that available to them. All right, so pros and cons of patron-driven acquisition and DDA programs. We interviewed and talked with several librarians about their experiences, some with the R2 Digital Library, some with other programs out there. So the pros and cons I'm going to talk about are not just R2 specific, R2 Digital Library specific, but they're across the board, and things to consider if you're thinking about starting a patron-driven acquisition collection. So let's start with the good things. Some of the pros that we heard from our partners in libraries was content. Being able to easily curate collections and having access to that content, really important. The subjects and the scope of the content, being able to curate those and make them available for patrons, fantastic. In a lot of settings, you have non-subject matter experts that are collecting in health sciences. So what does that mean? Maybe you're in a community college or four-year university and you're responsible not only for health sciences, but everything else. And you may not be a health sciences librarian per se. So it is a great way to inform usage of health sciences content if you're with R2, or outside of that if you're maybe a medical librarian who has to curate in history. It's a great way to inform that non-subject matter expert with regards to other areas. So content came to the top in all of our discussions. The next big thing is budget management. Budget management is probably on the top of everybody's list right now. So it's a great way to enable access without spend. And it's a great way to gather evidence to inform collection development. So knowing that content is going to be used and you're not buying it just in case, really important. So budget management was definitely one of the big pros. And then finally, it enables outreach. So it enables you to open up conversations with important people on campus. You can work with your faculty or physicians and nurses if you're in a hospital setting. And it integrates a lot of time, this content that you're making available for DDA or PDA, you can use it for course integration with your learning management systems on campus, or in an EMR if you're in a hospital. So it really does enable that outreach and helps to inform your patrons. Some of the cons that we heard, too many titles. So a lot of programs there are undifferentiated and it's kind of a one size fit all. So you have to open everything up, and if it's used, it's used. You know, thousands and thousands of titles can be too much for some institutions. Not easy to manage that day to day at times, depending upon your workflow and your staff. So that was one of the cons that we heard. Encumbering funds up front. Some plans require funds to be placed on deposit for use with the program. R2 does not do that, but a lot do. So it's something to think about. Going back to the budget management, you want to make sure you understand how the plan works and how the money that you're going to spend will be allocated. So pay attention to that if you're looking at PDA or DDA programs. And then there's the potential for mispurchase if you have an auto purchase. So out of scope titles could be purchased. And if the plan is mandating a purchase of a triggered ebook, you want to think about what you actually put on in your collection. So you want to be careful about, you know, understanding the pros and the cons of the different PDA and DDA programs. In my opinion, the pros outweigh the cons, especially if you can manage it or curate it more carefully. It really is, you know, a great way to hone in on, that's why we call it precision, collection development, and use evidence to inform your collection management. A few other things. Librarians reported that patron-driven acquisition is viewed as a useful tool, but that it should only be deployed when it can answer a specific collection development need. So looking at the content, making sure the content matches your patrons' needs. Your budget. You know, looking at what you plan to spend when you have that evidence to inform your collection management, and making sure that you put a purchase strategy in place ahead of time. Some of the librarians we talked with reported 80 to 90% of their collections are now acquired by PDA. So that's pretty powerful. You know, they're using that evidence to inform their collection management. Others estimated only a small portion of their collection starts its life as a PDA ebook. So again, it really depends on your institution. You know, talk with your vendors. They have a lot of experience and can help you if you're trying to put a strategy in place. We can assist with that, definitely. Okay, integration drives usage. You want to make sure that if you have a evidence-based collection that your patrons know about it and can find it. So you have a lot of different options here with your ILS, discovery tools, making sure that if you're using learning management system or OCLC, that you have that content there. Perfect for LibGuides, put links there. With R2 Digital Library, you can create a reserve shelf and put a link to that. That can reside anywhere on a website, in an LMS, on your ILS, in a LibGuide. Or if you're having A to Z lists, make sure that that PDA content is discoverable. Again, with R2, you can export that in 1 or 2 clicks and make sure that your patrons know that you've made this important content available to them. So it's easy to get started with R2 Digital Library. You can implement it as an initial collection. So if you're not on R2 right now, and this sounds great and we can get you started, again, there's no initial spend with this. So we can get you started and you can start collecting that important evidence. It can be used to support or augment an existing R2 collection. So if you have titles on R2, you can open up that PDA collection to support that. One thing I should note, I should have pointed this out earlier, we have a collection of 30 free ebooks. These are OER resources, no cost, unlimited access. So if you have the OER only ebook collection, you can enable access to that and support it with patron-driven acquisition. So, you know, a lot of things to think about when you're looking at precision collection development with the R2 Digital Library. So just to finish up here, and I think I'm right on time, we have some opportunities to save. So watch for our monthly flash sales and our specials, and they're always available with PDA. To take advantage of anything I presented, just log into your account on rittenhouse.com or r2library.com, and we can enable that access. I mentioned our blog post by Meg White earlier under Rittenhouse Rights. So go to rittenhouse.com and take a look at that. It's all about PDA, how it started, how we've arrived at where we are today. And of course, again, visit our virtual booth during MLA for more information. So I guess I'll ask Laura, are there any questions, Laura, that I can actually open it up? I don't see any questions on the toolbar. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to type them in right now. But if not, you know, certainly feel free to contact us afterwards. Okay, no questions?
No.
All right, well, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And we have a great day. Enjoy the virtual show, and we'll talk with you soon. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to